we've talked a lot about paid family medical leave. Let me use that as an example. It's super exciting, for those of you who don't know, that we have new social insurance policies in America that are universal in 3 states. We have paid family leave in California, New Jersey, and Rhode Island. And these are policies that have been implemented over, I think the California one was signed into law in 2003 and implemented a few years later. And then there have been some researchers that have actually gone out and said, okay, well, did this destroy the economies of California, New Jersey, and Rhode Island like the people who were fighting these bills getting passed said it would? And in the book, I have some really awesome quotes of people saying, if you do this, like everything will fall apart. And then, of course, that firm is still in existence many years later and everything might have been okay. But what we see, not just anecdotally, but from the research, is that implementing paid family medical leave, not only there's no signs that it was bad for the economy, there's a lot of evidence that for employers it was either good or pretty much a non-entity, which is also kind of a good thing, right? It didn't matter to the employer, which means that it wasn't a problem. And what you see that paid family medical leave does is it increases the probability that people who take that leave will go back to their employer. And I don't know how many of you actually have to hire people. And now that I do, I'm like obsessed with this one because it's a lot of work. It requires a lot of time and resources and energy, and increasing job retention of valuable employees saves firms lots of money. I don't want to give out a number. There's numbers in the books, but these kinds of policies that make it easier for people to take leave when they need it to care for a new child or a sick family member or their own illness, and then come back to work. If that increases the probability that you come back to work, that's increasing productivity. It's lowering the costs of turnover, which are really significant. In a meta-analysis I did with a colleague, we found that the cost of turnover is about 20% of an employee's annual salary up and down the income ladder, up until you get to the very highest, most specialized workers. So a lot of people say, oh, you can just replace that McDonald's worker, whatever. No, it actually still costs that firm a lot of money. It's less because that employee is made less, but it still costs a lot of money, that turnover. So these policies like paid family medical leave that draw people back in, there's evidence that these are good. That these are good economics, and there's not evidence that firms have found them difficult. One reason that this particular policy has been so good is that it doesn't cost the firms any money.
I was going to say, can you say a little about how it works and how it's financed?
It's the way that it's done in California, New Jersey, and Rhode Island is that it's a tax on employees. So you pay into this social insurance system, and then when you need the benefit, you can take it, and your check comes from the state. So you get from the benefit program that you paid into. So the money comes from not your employer. They don't have to worry about it. And if you're sick, or if you're having a new kid, you probably wouldn't be at work anyway, and a lot of those people will be eligible for the unpaid family medical leave. So the employer kind of already has to deal with the fact that you're not there. There's some people who are taking leave that wouldn't otherwise take leave, but overall, they don't actually, since they don't have to pay for it, it sort of reduces that burden on the employer, that piece of it.
So is it somewhat similar in some ways in the way it works to like sort of a cents per hour fund? And is it a financing mechanism, I guess, that I'm wondering, has anybody used it to finance other kinds of benefits?
It's statewide. The same social insurance system in 5 states is used to finance temporary disability, but it's the exact same logic as our Social Security system.
Right.
Every one of us, if you have an employer and you have payroll, there's that thing that says FICA that's taking your money for your future Social Security benefits, so that if you are retired or disabled, or you die and you have dependents, that they get that income. It's also similar in some ways, depending on the state, to how we fund unemployment insurance. So it's consistent with a variety of other policies already in place.